you tuck your hair. You know, I like to wear my hair in front of the headphones.
I'm doing that too then.
Yeah, because I feel like it like pushes it forward, and I'm like, oh, I love.
Yeah, that's a full.
I like the headphone look.
I feel like these should be like Beats by Dre.
Yeah, I did. You know there was at one point. Okay, first off, welcome to the Big Money Stylist podcast. I'm Danielle, the creator of Natural Beaded Rows, and we have a new guest. You guys are going to be seeing lots of new faces inside the podcast, or if you listen to on Spotify, you're going to be hearing a lot of new voices, which honestly, that was my goal when I started this podcast, was like to have, it was almost like to have artists and to have our industry have a voice, right? Like it started with my story, but now like we have so many trainers and so many students. We have just under 500 students inside the academy. And my goal now is, okay, I want to bring more people in and everybody share their voice and everybody has a unique voice. And I don't want to, on my podcast, like that's fine if we have like some big names on, if we have people with big social media followings. But to me, I want to add the most value with just real stories and not just somebody who's got a big social media number. So Courtney is one of my trainers and I recruited her. Did you know it was me?
I didn't.
You didn't know that?
No, but I'm excited to hear about that.
Okay, well, I know. I feel like I don't fully know her story, but she doesn't maybe know fully how you got here.
I don't. Let's talk about it.
Well, okay, so I own a salon and we needed an artist and we also needed a trainer. And I was like, we had lost one and I was like, I don't have time to train an artist to be on the floor. Like we lost an artist and we have clients, we have an influx, and we also have this need of, we need another trainer. And Coach Ani would always talk really highly of you, and you were just kind of like always, like somebody I was always kind of watching in the background, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I just randomly, I think that timing plays a huge role in life. And literally like when this person was no longer on the team, I looked at Katie and Ani at the time, and I was like, "What's with Courtney?" And that was when you were kind of like exiting and getting ready to do your own thing. Mm-hmm. So you had worked with Allie Scott in Salt Lake City. Mm-hmm. Well, you'd had your own thing. You'd worked with Allie Scott. Mm-hmm. Then you were just getting ready to do your own thing, and I was like, "We got to get her now! We got to get her now!" So I was the one that was like, "Somebody recruit Courtney! Somebody recruit Courtney!"
That happened fast, too.
Yeah, I knew it. It
wasn't even on my radar.
Really?
Wasn't even on my radar.
Really?
Yeah. I actually, I started out first in more of like a business corporate role.
Okay.
And then decided like I had so much like frustration around like just being like tied to my job and not having any freedom. And I was like, you know who's having a lot of fun? Are those hairstylists.
Oh, so what did you were in business. Did you go to like college or what were you?
My bachelor's is in speech communications and my minor's in Spanish.
Oh, cool.
Just a lot of talking, really. I was always the kid that was like, hey, separate from Courtney. She's distracting you. So now I'm like, now I have 2 degrees in talking. Excellent.
Nice.
I was doing a lot of human resources and marketing and things like that. And I just was like, this isn't what fulfills me every single day. And I could feel that feeling of like, something's not aligned, something's wrong, like I'm not fulfilled, I have no purpose or passion, and I was just doing all the things that I was told, like this is your next step, you go to college, you do this, and I love my experience, like I would never take any of that away, but I was like, I'm gonna go to beauty school, and I'd always loved styling and doing makeup, and I really got into the industry and like bridal, but coming from a business background and then jumping into the hair world, I was like, how come no one's talking about business inside of the hair industry?
Right.
Like, great, I can foil and I have some business information, but how do I start this whole thing?
Yeah.
And a friend, actually, my friend Mel in Reno, which is where I was originally, had my own studio. She was like, hey, there's this podcast. They talk about business. Like, they're kind of crazy. I think you might like them. Like, I just think you might like them. Was this
before you did hair or after you got your license? Or?
I had just been licensed. I really didn't have a clientele. I was trying to build it. And I kept thinking, like, why would I sit and wait at a salon for a men's cut when I should be building my website?
Yeah, and your brain was not wired like a hairdresser. Your brain was wired like an entrepreneur or a businesswoman.
And I was like, I just don't understand why everyone's like, well, if you want to be successful, you need to sit in the salon and wait for men's cuts. And so I was like, I'll sit in the salon, I'll bring my laptop, and I'll build my website and start to build my brand. And if a color client walks in, I'll say yes.
Yeah. It's so crazy that is actually one of the things that is just taught so heavily inside of our industry is, and I think it's getting better now with social media and people are doing their own personal branding. But even then, there's so many times where it's like, well, I'm going to get a job at this really nice salon and they're going to feed me leads and I'm going to sit there and I don't have to do anything. And yeah, you might get some leads in the door, but really, like, what if you don't want to work at that salon anymore and you want to go do your own thing? There's so much power in understanding how to personal brand yourself and how to market yourself, even if you're in, a large commission-based salon. Like, say one day it doesn't work out, then you want to be able to have another skill.
Absolutely. And I felt like it was collectively from our industry, like this was the story that kept being pushed.
Yeah.
Like, this is how you want to be successful. And I felt like there was a lot of pain in that. Like, I'm just supposed to do my time and you're not going to have a business until you're 5 years in. And there was all of these stories that I just jumped into the industry and was like, so I'm supposed to adopt them all?
You're like, wait, I love hair, but what?
But why do I have to slow myself down to fit in with what our industry has been teaching?
Well, it's so crazy. I love that you're sharing that. That's kind of was like your mindset behind things. Just because I do think because you're taught a certain way inside of a certain industry that you just have to like mold yourself into that box. But it's like, well, and that's like one of the things I'm so passionate about the Academy is like, we teach our artists, like, you're the prize. Like, it's application only. Like, we teach them how to do a consultation, like everything. Like, the Academy is built out, yes, the art and science of Natural Beaded Rows, but really, like, that's what I was passionate about is like how to get a lead and close that lead on a $3,000 to $5,000 service over the phone. And I had to shift my mind frame. And in the beginning, it was always taught, even with extensions, it was like, they come in, you do like 95 swatches, you do a consultation. I'm like, hold up, this is not a consultation. This is a sales call. Like, and I reframed myself as the prize. And as it started to work, this is now what we educate on. So it's interesting to hear your side of the story where you're like, your brain already kind of thought a little bit differently. So that's probably why you liked this podcast. You were like, who are these crazy people? Okay, there's somebody in our industry that thinks a little bit more like me.
Someone's talking about it. And I think too, like, honestly, if I'm going to be completely open, I didn't even know what NBR was. And you guys were saying this acronym on the podcast.
You're like, what is NBR?
And I was like, I don't know what that means, but tell me more about this BMS stuff.
Oh, okay.
This business marketing sales side of things.
Right.
And simultaneously, I was having clients at that salon who'd be like, hey, I'm here for a color. I also have some tape-ins. Will you move them up? And I was like, sure, let me go watch a YouTube real fast. Like, yes, absolutely, I'll do it. We'll get you in. And then I was like watching YouTube and like shadowing other stylists being like, I have an appointment and I don't actually know what I'm doing.
I know. Isn't that nuts, though, that extend? This is another thing I preach is like, there's no hair school. Like, you have like little tiny certification classes that are like a demo. I'm like, but we go to like up to 1,000. I went to 2,000 hours to learn to cut and color. Why is the standard so low with hair extensions? So again, that was like my goal is I was like, I'm different than any other hand-tied system. Yes, because I'm not a demo course. I believe that 99.9% of the hand-tied education shit on the market is a demo. And then we are expected to have the mindset and be able to charge our clients in the thousands of dollars, even if it's tapes, right? Like even like tapes, you're like, okay, it's so with the hair and the installation and everything, you're still going to pay $500-$600. Like, that's still a good chunk of cash. And so it's like the Academy really merges the gap of like, okay, let's actually teach extensions correctly and let's stop calling them hand-tied hair. That's just like a trending buzzword. And let's actually teach artists like you would in hair school. Like, the Academy is like your master's inside of the hair school, but then we want to take it a step further and teach the business, marketing, and sales. And a lot of people don't necessarily know what the Academy is, and they don't know what Natural Beaded Rows is. And so it's like, I want to share a lot of value on this podcast and hear other people's stories, but at the same time, I'm like, hey, let me tell you what we're doing that's working to help artists that maybe like are resonating with the stories that come on this podcast. Okay, so you found the podcast. And then what happened? Like, you were like, how?
I was consuming it weekly as you guys were putting it out. I was just like, I can't get enough of this message. And I feel like as a lot of hairstylists in the industry, like, we know we need more, but we don't know how or where to get it. And we feel alone and we feel stuck.
Right.
And honestly, I was like, I can't build an extension clientele. Like, who am I? Why would people want to pay me that much? And I honestly was like, am I even an extension girl? Like, do I wear them?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I had all these stories that finding the podcast slowly helped me understand that, one, I wasn't alone. Two, it was a conversation that not just I wanted, like collectively the community wanted to talk about it. And I slowly just started to chisel away all of those big, scary stories I had for myself and I had been told to adopt now that I'm in this industry.
Yeah. And it's crazy. I feel like our industry is new but old, right?
Yeah.
And it's like there's so much money to be made inside of our industry. And I even think artists are a little bit funny in the sense it's like, well, I don't want so-and-so to learn NBR. Well, I don't want so-and-so to learn NBR. You're like, we're such a small niche. Like the fact that clients are still running around calling all hair extensions hand-tied hair. Like there's so much opportunity to personally brand yourself and build a business for yourself. And so it's crazy, but a lot of it starts with like shattering that mindset of everybody is my competition. Well, then you don't value yourself if everybody is your competition. What makes you stand above your competition? You can sit and worry about your competition, or you can do something about it. And it really segues us into our topic today of pushing through the pain. Like, honestly, like I've had to push through the pain so many times in my career. Like, to the point where I was like, okay, I am a hairstylist by trait, but like I have to become so much more. And
it's scary.
And you have to like you said, like you're taught this way and you feel like you have all these people. Maybe you're in a community or a salon where you feel like people are like, what is she doing? Well, why does she have an application? Who does she think she is? A sales call? It's a consultation. It's like you can let the whispers affect you or you can break the fucking mold. And that's like what I am so passionate about. But you have to push through the pain. Are there certain times like as you're going through this journey, because you were a student?
I was a student.
Then you were you were running your own thing. Then you went and worked for one of my trainers. Then you became a trainer.
I was already a trainer.
Oh, you were already a trainer?
Yeah, I was a trainer in 2019. I joined in 2018. Trainer since 2019.
Okay, so when you went to Ali Scott's, you guys were both trainers.
Yes.
Okay, so then you were like, okay, that's not, and you guys are still like everything good there now, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
I love and adore Ali.
Yeah, I felt like it was maybe not a fit or timing or whatever it was, but I just felt like you were going to fit in well with my team.
Well, and that's what's so crazy about like our topic and that story and things we have. Like, I'm a big person that like, I'm going to say yes to opportunity, and it's big and it's scary and it is painful and it doesn't always go the way you have this vision in your head, but like you have to be like, I'm scared to do this and I'm just going to do it anyways.
Right.
And
do it and do it scared.
Do it and do it scared. And we say it all the time. And I remember when I took my first mastermind or my first convention, BMS Con 3, and it was about joining mastermind. And I already knew when I got there that I wanted to join a mastermind. And I was like talking to my husband on the phone. I'm like, it's this much money a month and da-da-da-da-da. And I was like in all of my stories. And he asked me a question and I use it all the time now. And it's, would you regret it if you said no? And it doesn't matter what type of pain or story that you're in that moment. If you can ask yourself that question, would I regret it if I said no? I would have regretted it had I said no to go to Utah. I would have regretted it had I said no if I hadn't come here. So even though you're scared, you still have to push through it.
I also think too, and I like that how you said like you'll get opportunities. You will not get opportunities if you're not ready to see them. And if you decline those opportunities, then you weren't ready, like honestly. So I feel like when big opportunities come into my life, they may have come in sooner, but I didn't see them. Does that make sense? So the minute you finally see an opportunity that presents itself, it's like, how many times was I given this opportunity, but I wasn't ready? And now I'm ready. So even though it's scary, like you have to acknowledge that you possibly did the work to be open to seeing that opportunity, right? Like I probably would have never just been like, it's not like I would have just picked you out of nowhere and been like, hey, come be a trainer, come do this. Like I saw your path and your journey and like you kept showing up. So you had already put yourself in this situation where I presented you with an opportunity of like, hey, do you want to move to California? I get it. It's expensive to live here and it's scary, but you had done the work to put yourself in that situation. So I think that people, a lot of times, whether you're an artist or not, we keep waiting for these big moments, right? Like I'm going to wait for somebody to find me. I'm going to have behind the chair is going to come find me. And nothing against them. And that's great. And I remember there was a point in my career where I was like, yeah, if I can just get on that stage or if I can just do that. And then I was like, or I can work on myself and build my own stage and go my own direction. And then when an opportunity presents me, I've done the work. Like truly. So I think there's a lot of in our industry, don't wait for somebody to come find you. Create your own opportunity and push through the pain, truly. Like you have those scary moments. You need to acknowledge that you've done the work to be in that situation, to have that scary moment. Like be excited, embrace those scary moments.
Absolutely. And if you don't, even if you've done all the legwork and you have built yourself to the point where when an opportunity comes and you're like, I'm going to take that. I haven't said yes to any opportunity that I haven't felt not ready for.
Yeah.
Like internally, I'm like, I'm not ready for this shit. And can I rise and can I deliver that? And it's like, you're going to say yes and you're going to figure it out and you're going to do it scared. And sometimes you're going to fall and it might not go the way you plan, but like you're going to have grit and you're going to get the fuck back up and you're going to keep going and you're going to keep pushing and you're going to keep moving forward. Doesn't matter how scary it is. Doesn't matter how painful it is. I know that I'm going to show up for me every time.
It's so crazy too, because I've used this analogy before too. It's like, you know, when you're in hair school and you first like are foiling or painting somebody's hair and you're just like, I'm going to mess this up. This bitch has no idea. I'm frying the shit out of her hair. And you're so scared, but you're like, okay to be scared because you're like, it's new. And then something happens where you get your cosmetology license and you're like, woo, I don't have to be scared anymore. Like, I'm done. Check that off the box. Like, I've got my credentials. I've got my certification. I don't have to be scared anymore. And it's same with like, we have students that come in and take our education, right? So we have the 2-day virtual experience where you can come and get certified with Natural Beaded Rows and you can use that for your clients. We also have pre-training that goes into that and customized feedback with that. So when they come up, it's not just like a demo. So that's kind of our introduction of Natural Beaded Rows. But also I'm like, you're going to be scared. And we found when I first started teaching over 10 years ago, I was like pouring my heart and soul into teaching these people. And then they would leave and they're like, but I'm so scared. I can't go through. So that's why we created the mastermind, right? So I think it's okay to be scared. But I think somewhere along the lines in hair specifically, we think like, oh, I already went to cosmetology school. I'm good. I don't need to be scared anymore. Right? And it's like, if you want to continue, like whether it's a business, marketing, or sales, like you got to be a little bit scared and push through that pain in order to become the better person on the other side of the other side of fence.
And I think the more that you say yes to that moment, the more you kind of...
You trust yourself.
You do. And you're like, I feel like this is scary, but I know that's where growth is going to happen.
Yeah.
And if I want to grow, you almost start to recognize that the fear is like what's right in front of the growth. And we all want growth. And I think that's why
I like that. The fear that's right in front of the growth.
It is. It's that moment where you're just like, you're on the ledge, you feel the pull, you know you need to. You're like, this is what I need to do. And you're like, I'm so scared. And you just step off into the unknown and then boom, things are going to happen in that spot. You just can't see it yet.
Right. And I think too, like with repetition and all things. So like for me, I felt like I was never like qualified to get up and teach, and why would people listen to me? Like, what do I have to say? Like, I don't know, I'm going to get on stage and I'm going to fumble, and I'm going to fuck it up, and I don't know. And then I would just be like, take a deep breath. And if you've done the work, which meaning like, yeah, I knew how to do hair. I knew how to do hair extensions. I felt like I knew how to communicate it. I felt like I was very passionate about it. It's like, okay, you've done the work. So allow yourself a little bit of grace. Like, yeah, now you need to become a better communicator and a better educator. And so I jumped into this, education scene of kind of being nervous, but I had kind of done the work, but I became a better educator because I kept just forcing myself to put myself in situations where I'm like, this is scary. I went from training, 10 students to 15 students to 30 students to 500 students to these large virtual events. And it's now I'm like, I'll do it with my eyes closed, but now I'm kind of like, okay, well, what's next? I'm always looking for, what did you call it? The fear
right before.
The fear right before the cliff? No, what did you call it?
We're going to rewind
that.
But
I get it. Like people are like, how do you keep going into this scared? I'm like, because I know the outcome is worth being scared. Like it is. So you have to ask yourself like, okay, this doing a live, maybe it's something as simple as live. Right? Like we teach our students like the most simple things and they won't do it. And we're like, how do you expect to do big things if you can't do simple things?
Right.
I'm like, go do a live. Like if you just go do a live, like you're like, oh my God, that was so scary. I'm never doing it again. But what if you got a lead? You did one live and somebody was having a bad day and she's like, I didn't even know Sarah did extensions. She clicks on your live. You're talking about your story. You have fragile, crappy hair and NBR changed your life. And she's like, I would have never known that just looking at your feed. Like, I loved your story. Bam, $3,000. Like, are you willing to feel uncomfortable? I don't want to say with money, but like But yeah, getting a deposit, getting somebody on your books. You know what I mean?
Oh my gosh. I used to practice. I would write it down. I wrote out my own consults because I wanted it to sound like me and sound like my voice. And I would walk around my house. I would have like a alarm on my phone that you have a consult in 30 minutes. And I would walk around and because I was scared and it was painful and it was new. And I was like, the only way to get through it is to do it. And so I would walk around the house and I would like practice and practice. So it felt natural to me so that when I got on the phone, it was natural for me to say it. And I was scared every single time. But now like, I'll do a consultation in the car on the way somewhere. You just don't even think about it anymore.
Yeah. That's crazy. It's so funny because it was 10 years ago when I started teaching the frame of consultations, because I was like, I'm a very like how you were saying, like men's cuts don't make sense. I was kind of like, time is money behind the chair. And I was like, it doesn't make sense to have somebody come in and swatch their hair. We all know as hairstylists, we're never swatching their hair. It's like it's a very customized process. You're not swatching the hair. You kind of have an idea. I mean, you are, but you're not. You know what I mean?
It's more complex than that.
Yeah, it's more complex than that. And so even for me, I had so much self-doubt. Like, who do you think you are to get these women on a consultation on the phone and think they're going to come into you? And I had to really, same thing. I'd be like, I remember my first phone consultation, this lady wanted to fly in. This is when I started getting fly-ins. She wanted to pay me, back then it was like $2,000-$3,000. She's like, she wanted to pay me that, but she was like, well, do I need to fly in for a consultation? And I was like, no, because I was confident in my craft. I knew what I was doing. I had her send me like multiple photos of her hair, her length, and this and that. And I'm like, I do phone consultations all the time. I have people fly in all the time. This is my process. I feel 100% confident in taking you on as a client. If I didn't, I wouldn't offer this to you. And I did. There was a lot of truth, and I did feel confident in that. But I was like, holy shit, she wants to fly into me, and we've never even met in person. But I was like, but I do. I feel confident in what I can offer her. But it was so scary. Like, I was like sweating. And then I'll tell you, now we do a deposit. It's not a hair deposit. So
it's an appointment retainer.
It's an appointment retainer. We teach this in all of our education. We're like, stop using, stupid words like a hair deposit, because then the client's going to ask you if they can take over their extra hair on the tray. Now, bitch, that's not your hair.
That's part of inventory. It's just like color.
It's just like color. That'd be weird if they asked you to take home a color box. That'd be so weird.
Same.
Same. But I remember like even the first time like asking for a $500 non-refundable deposit. And I was like, I need to take a deep breath. Okay. All right, because there were so many times where I did consultations and I didn't take that deposit and they would cancel on me last minute and I had no money and I just went and invested thousands of dollars into the hair, and then I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? And then I was like, screwed, right? So I learned, I'm like, you're going to have to be scared, Danielle. You're going to have to be really scared. Otherwise, you're going to be screwed and you're going to spend thousands of dollars you don't have, and then you're trying to put food on the table for your kids. Like, I've been in that spot that all of artists have been in. Like, I get it. That's what really forced me to you learn doing stupid shit because you're like, well, I can't, that's not going to work. That's really how life is.
Well, you get to choose the pain of not being able to feed your children,
or
the pain of asking somebody to reserve an appointment in your books, and like which one is the most painful. Actually, not being able to put food on the table for your kids is way more painful than asking
that's
for
true.
a
You're
deposit.
I didn't think about that. You're weighing out the pain for sure.
Absolutely.
I like that.
Which one is more painful.
Right. That's true. I think a lot of times we probably sit in the more painful space, right? We're like, oh, I didn't realize I'm already in pain and I just needed to experience a different pain to get a different outcome.
Yeah, choose a different one.
Yeah.
It's going to be painful no matter what you do.
Find your pain to predict your outcome. There you go.
Absolutely.
I like that.
I like that too.
All right. Well, you guys, I feel like you didn't share enough of your story.
What would you like to know?
Well, what do you want to tell the artist, the future artist who is like, they're scared, they're nervous, they love hair, but like everybody starts somewhere. And for me, I wanted to hide and just be like a good artist. Is there a time that you had in your career where you were just like, I have to become more than the hairstylist. Like I have to just get out of my own way. I have to like push through the pain. Like what's your like final thoughts for the show?
There was a moment I had taken the education, I had signed up for a mastermind, and there were these weekly trainings. And I was living rurally. I was on a list for the internet. So I didn't have the internet. I know that's like crazy to say in like 2019.
I was like, what year was that?
Well, it was rurally and there wasn't enough like capacity, right? And so I literally would get in my car and drive down the street and park between this, like, it's like the hardware store in a barn. I'm not even lying to you. And I would submit my work and I would try really hard to like be invested in the education. And those were painful times for me.
Yeah.
Like, I think about, I was building a clientele from scratch. I had told everybody I was going to do extensions and they were like, who do you think you are? And I remember my car had just like, the transmission had just broken. And it felt like all of this stuff
compounds at one time.
Yes. And I never would have thought, as that girl, that past version of me, that I would have had this many opportunities set on my plate that I would say yes to. And that I remember listening to you talking about fly-in clients on the podcast and being like, they don't understand where I live. They don't understand my clientele. They don't understand my resources. They don't understand. And it got to the point where I was like, those are fucking stories and that's not true and I'm believing it.
Yeah.
And even with all of this pressure and all of this weight and all of these things, I still was like, I'm going to do it scared and I'm going to give it a 100% effort. And if I don't start seeing results in my life and in my business, then I've tried it and I know that maybe that system doesn't work. And things slowly, it wasn't fast for me. I watched other people and I'm like, they are going so fast. Like, something's wrong. I'm not doing it right. And really just trusting the process. And I spent all that time that I thought everybody next to me was flying past me. And I used that time to break down the stories that I had created and I had believed in. And I remember when I started getting applications and all of a sudden the majority of my clientele was extensions and NBR. And then I started having people fly to me and I was like, I would have never believed as that previous person that I could have done that. So if you're a student and you're listening or you're a business man or woman and you are thinking like, that's great what they're saying, but they don't understand and it doesn't apply to me, breaking down stories applies to you. And it's painful and it's hard and you're going to have to work at it, but push through that uncomfortable, step off the ledge of fear because that's where opportunity and greatness and growth live.
Well, and I love that you, and I'll kind of wrap up here too, I love that you shared that story because a lot of people don't know that NBR was born in Salt Lake City, Utah, but immediately I launched my brand in Gilbert, Arizona. And I lived in an area inside of Gilbert where to get to my salon, you would lose service on your phone, like map.
So you understand the internet struggles.
But no, like literally, like it'd be like a dead spot. And I was like, oh my God. So I had moved from Salt Lake to Arizona and I was like, how? I'm in this tiny town. Like I could have gone and worked in Scottsdale or a little bit further, but I actually got a job at a salon in Scottsdale and I was like, I don't want to drive 50 minutes. I have 2 young babies. And I was like, the power's in the marketing. I know it is. Like, I know it is. If I show up and give clients an amazing experience, and I always say extensions is a feeling, right? Like the transformation that we can give women with NBR, like I've had women like cry in the chair, right?
Absolutely.
And I was confident in my craft and the outcome I knew I could give my clients. And that was enough for me to get out of my own way. And so even though I lost, like literally, like clients would lose service, like I just got them on the phone and I believed enough in myself. So I think the first thing you have to do is like, what stories are you telling yourself? Like honestly, because the brand of NBR was started in a tiny town where I started getting, when nobody was getting fly-ins at the time, have you know. And everybody in these salon spa studios that I worked at, I was like, who is she? She's the new girl. And I was like, yeah, my motivation is my children and my family. So I'm going to do what I need to do. And nobody's going to tell me because I'm living in a small town, because I'm just a hairdresser, what I can do. Like there are no limitations. And I had to just like tunnel vision. So I always say, if you're that artist and you're listening to this show and you're like, they don't know my story. Well, they don't know my culture. Well, they don't know this. Like, I can assure you, I have lived in your shoes in so many ways, but the only person that is blocking you is you. And if you entertain possibilities will present themselves to you in your life. But you got to get out of your own way. So my first word of advice for you is commit. Commit to an outcome, tunnel vision, push through the pain. So that's how I'm going to wrap it up. All right, you guys, this was so fun. I like having new faces, new spaces. To be here. And I'm sure Courtney will be back. I'm going to force her to come back. I'm like, you've never done a podcast? She's like, nope. And I was like, well, get ready. It's fun. So fun. It was fun. But we'll see you guys next week. We do have a virtual experience coming up. Again, we have two options with education. It's either a 1-year academy program that teaches you the art science of natural beaded row hair extensions, which is a hand-tied system of hair. We also have ILA, and I always say 50% of the system that you choose is represented by the quality of hair paired with it. I'm so passionate about our hairline. So we have our academy that's a 12-year program. We also have a
12-month.
What did I say? 12 year? Shit, sorry.
12 months, guys.
12-month program. Coaching, customized coaching feedback on business, marketing, and sales, and natural beaded rows. But if you're like, who are these crazy people? I just want a taste of NBR, maybe see if I like it. Please join us for our next 2-day virtual event. Again, we have one that we are selling in October. It is 3 weeks of pre-training, customized coaching, and feedback. We dabble a little bit in the business, marketing, and sales, and we teach you the skills and art of natural beaded rows so that you can offer such a phenomenal system with a hairline to your clients. So that's my spiel. That's my pitch. I'll see you guys next Tuesday with a new guest. I don't know who it's going to be. We'll figure it out.
Stay tuned.
All right. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye, guys.